The Broken Empires RPG is coming to Kickstarter this summer. If you want to help me bring this game to life, go to play.thebrokenempires.com and sign up for your VIP membership today. Survival 66. Oh, he just failed. He literally failed by 1%. See? When people say, percentile systems, what's the difference between 66 and 67? Well, in this case, that's the difference. One was success and one is failure. Well, welcome back once again to Me, Myself, and I. I am, as always, your intrepid GM host and player, Trevor DeVal. Thank you so much for joining me here today. And if you do want to help support the channel, please do consider hitting like and subscribe, joining us on Patreon or here on the YouTube channels, or becoming part of the VIP membership to launch the Broken Empires RPG, which I am creating for the purposes of this season, as well as the purposes of just creating a game, because it's pretty cool. All of the details for that are in the comment section below, or in the description below, I should say. When last we saw Vale and Thrag, they had just defeated Akholm the Death Knight in the old lair of Matzaroth underneath the city of Ansharir. What is of pertinent interest here is that the flaming quasi-portal thing that they're now standing in front of, this sort of blue flaming light, we don't know whether that is a portal to Matzaroth or a communication device or what the deal is. I do, however, have an idea which has come to me, which I really like. In fact, I like it so much, I'm not going to roll on it. I'm just going to assume that that's the case. That is my prerogative as a GM in a solo game or a player in a solo game. I can, decide whatever I want. I don't have to roll for every little thing. But on our character list for Mythic, we can cross off Akholm the Death Knight as he is destroyed. We can also cross off the thread, get to the Death Knight's lair, because we dealt with that. We're going to bump up the chaos factor to 6. We're going to award some XP. So Vale actually will earn 4 XP, and the reason for that is because in this game, you gain XP by pursuing and completing goals as well as journeys. She worked towards a short-term goal, which was to find the lair. She worked towards a long-term goal, which was to get to Matzaroth. And she completed a short-term goal, which is another 2. So in total, she's got 4 XP. She's going to be able to spend that. So I've spent her XP. Her endurance has gone up to 53. Her perception has gone up to 60, and her heal has gone up to 46. Now, as they're standing here in front of this flaming blue light and the physical form of the Death Knight, which is even now rapidly decaying within its black plate armor, that big two-handed sword right beside him, Soul Spite, its blue glowing runes. Well, the glow is no more. It is very, very quickly faded with the demise of the Death Knight. So I don't think that they want to touch that weapon or the armor, even though, unbeknownst to them, if they were to wear this armor, which they can't because they're both too small for it, but if they were to wear it, it would slowly turn their personality towards the elements of Akholm's. So it's bad news, but they're not going to touch it anyway. They don't know that, but now we do. Anyway, they abandon that, but the silent blue flames just illuminate the room in this dull, bluish kind of light, but the flames themselves make no sound. It's eerily quiet in here. So both Vale and Thrag have a couple of wounds to deal with, but to treat the wounds is going to take an hour, so I think we're going to deal with this flame thing first. I think Vale moves up towards the flame and looks inside. Now, I have an idea of what this is, and the idea is something I'm not going to roll on. I'm just going to assume that I'm correct, but you will see what this is. What I don't know about this idea is the details. I just know the opening, so to speak. So as she looks inside the flame, is it in fact a portal to Matzaroth? The answer, without rolling, is no. It is something else. And as she looks inside the flames, an image begins to swirl around in front of her, and it is not the image that she was expecting. There is a lush green garden, almost like an oasis in a palace. There's a man, young, handsome, dark of skin, his hair pulled back and his garb in the fashion of an Anshariri noble, but ancient style. He's in the prime of his life, and he's reading this book, and even through this image, Vale can see that his eyes are alight with this burning desire and curiosity. Now, as she looks into the flame, he stops and looks up and looks directly at her, and as he does so, the book falls from his fingers, collapsing on the ground. His face breaks into a desperate, relieved smile as tears begin to form in his eyes, and he says words, not to her exactly, but almost like past her. He's speaking to something that she can't see, and he says, "At last, you have kept your promise. She has come to finish what we have started." And then, appearing next to him, shimmering, incorporeal, barely there, in fact, just a bare suggestion of the form, but it is a form that Vale immediately recognizes, and that is the shape and face of Sherilyn Spiritbane. Vale gasps, thinking to herself, how can this be? Sherilyn was lost in the soul cage. She can't possibly be here, and yet there she is. She can see the image of ghostly Sherilyn right there, right beside this young man. And then the man clutches at his chest, almost like clutching at something within his chest. And he again looks directly at Vale, tears still in his eyes. And he says, "Yes, she is still here, my child. She lives within me still. Come to me, child of the Spiritbane. Come, and all will be made clear." And in that moment, Vale, with absolute clarity, sees almost like a map in her head. Vale can sense where the resting place, the prison of Motzaroth is. She can see it, and it lies in the shadow of a great range of mountains in the desert. And she knows in that moment that is where Motzaroth is to be found, and possibly her old mentor, Sherilyn. She breaks from this sort of reverie and collapses to the ground, stumbling backwards. Thrag still on his feet. His leg wasn't incapacitated, he was just knocked prone. Thrag comes to her and helps her to her feet. "I know where he is. And what's more, Sherilyn is with him." Thrag, his eyebrows arched in skepticism, looks at her as if to say, "That cannot be, Vale. Sherilyn fell in the chamber of the soul cage. And yet I saw her with my own eyes. She is there. Somehow, she is there. With him." "This is a trick, Vale. There is no other explanation." "You may be right, old friend. But what if you're not? What if there is still a chance to save her? What if there is still a chance to bring her back?" This is Vale's big fatal flaw. Her whole thing, her whole major goal, all through season 3, was about trying to restore Sherilyn Spiritbane. She failed in the chamber of the soul cage. But now she sees an opportunity. There is only one way to find out, Thrag. We have to go to him. "I do not like this, Vale." "Nor do I, old friend. But, like it or no, this is our course. If there is a chance, any chance, to restore Sherilyn, I must know." Vale sets to on the wound, so we will deal with that now. With Thrag's help, she's going to try and treat his wound. This is going to take some time. This is going to take an hour per roll, so she's rolling on 56 to try and treat his leg wound. Does she succeed? She does, with 2 degrees of success. So she's going to restore 2 + 1 per 2 SL, so it's going to be 3 wounds, which knocks his leg wound down to 3, and I put it in brackets to show that it's been treated. So now it can only be healed through recovery rolls. He still has a slight wound in his left knee, but it's not too bad. We do have to do medical rolls for her as well. She's rolling on a D10 as her supply die has been reduced to 1 or 2, and it goes down the first attempt. Oh no! So it's down to a D8. She's running out of bandages quickly. Luckily, they can go back to the surface of the city and probably go back to the General's Manse. I think that's probably their next place to go. That just makes the most sense. It's like the one place in town they know is perfectly safe. So that's what they're gonna do. They grab their stuff, and Vale's still sort of laboring from these body wounds, her a crush in the stomach and sort of a magic damage she's taken in the chest. They make their way back the way they came, through the maze of the old sunken city, up into the sewers and out into the streets of Ancharir, where they finally make their way back to General Darian Bangara's manse. And he is very pleased to see them. So Vale tells the general everything that happened. "And now you say through some power You know precisely where this Montserrat is imprisoned, is entombed. Yes, I can see it in my mind's eye. If you are going out into the desert, you will need help. I think it's very likely that he's going to offer help in this, so let's find out. Extreme, yes, right on the button, that's 17. The desert is no place for the two of you alone. You may know the location of where this tomb is, but to get there, you will require skills that I do not believe you or your dwarf friend here have. Allow me to lend you from my own retinue some camels to allow you to travel faster, and also a guide to take you to the place where you need to go. My deepest gratitude, General. Thank you. So, while the general has his people assemble the gear that they're gonna need, as well as the few camels they're gonna take, I think that Vale and Thrag can take this opportunity to top up their supply dice, and they're going to be able to rest within the mansion. Now, before we move on, I do want to ask a question. There are threats to them still in the city. The Silent Death Assassins have been set back, so I don't think they're a threat, but the Vizier's Guard still could be. I think it's nearly impossible that the Vizier's Guard is going to cause a problem here, or even find them. No, definitely not. In fact, it's an extreme no. So, not only do the guards not find them, Vale and Thrag are able to take their rest here in the General's Manse and recuperate and replenish all of their spent resolve. Oh, right, the General has a healer, so I think it's fair to say that the healer sets to on her wounds. I'm gonna roll, because you never know. The healer's really good though, so it's it's great. So basically, the healer's easily able to take care of her 3 1-point wounds, which will remove them entirely. While they're resting, that night, I think Thrag comes to Vale. They've both been bathed and have fresh clothes laid out for them. They're being treated very well, probably the best they've been treated in a long time here in this opulent general's mansion. But Thrag comes to Vale and says to her in his mute kind of way of communicating through body language and expression, things like this. I presume that we are taking the spirit mantle with us. Well, yes, of course. It is the most potent weapon we have against the Lich. As I've said, I like not this invitation from Montserrat. Something is very wrong here, and I fear that there is foul play at work. And you are right to fear it, Thrag. But I cannot abandon the possibility that Sherilyn still may be able to be brought back from whatever existence she is in now. If this is my chance to succeed where I failed, then I must take it. And with a very, very disturbed look on his face, Thrag just sort of silently nods, but knowing that this could be a grievous error. The morning comes, and there is a guide that the general is sending with her. His name is Watik Fel Sabah. And what do we know about Watik Fel Sabah? We're just gonna roll. We know he's a guide for one thing, but I'm gonna roll on Une, the universal NPC emulator, just to get a sense of what he might be like. 77. Dignified worker. Dignified worker. Okay, well, dignified, I was gonna make him a member of the general's household, but he's not. He's a dignified worker. But I think, well, he's dignified, so he is of extreme value to the general. I have sent Watik ahead to meet you at the western gates of the city. That way you can make your way through the city without prying eyes seeing where you are going. Find him there waiting for you, and go with the grace and luck of all the gods. So they do. They make their way through the city and get to Watik, who is in fact waiting there with 4 camels actually. One of them is carrying water and supplies and provisions, because they have got a long way to go. So Watik suggests that they follow the Jeweled River as far as they can, because that will help navigate them through the wastelands. They are headed to the location that Vale knows sort of instinctually where this Lich's tomb is. Watik tells her that at the very mouth of the Jeweled River, there is a series of waterfalls which acts as kind of an oasis, a very deeply restful and peaceful place. So he suggests that they make for that instead of cutting across the desert directly, because as he tells her, if they get a chance to take their rest there and refill their canteens and their spirits, basically they'll be able to get some resolve back if they wind up spending any, and that's pretty important in a journey. So this is a journey of about 210 miles, so that's going to take some time. They're going through difficult terrain, but they are mounted, so they can go 4 hexes per day on foot if they don't push it. Now, Vale is under a bit of a timeline here. Remember that in about 12 days or so, the portal from which she came will seal shut unless the Order can keep it open for any longer, but she does not know if they're going to be able to. So time is of the essence here, but if they try and push, that's going to make it a far, far more dangerous or exhausting journey. Nonetheless, I think that she says to Watik, "We have very little time to spare. We must get to our destination as quickly as possible." So they're gonna push it. They depart the city of Ansharir to go to the mountain, we'll call it a tomb, I guess, where chaos factor is 6. So I'm going to roll that right now to see if the scene is interrupted or altered in some way. It is not. So they set out that morning. The next morning, their camels forming a line, all 4 of them, as they move away from the city, following the sparkling Jeweled River, heading west into the desert. Now, they are going rather quickly. They are doing what we call a forced march. So that's going to allow them to go faster, but it's going to probably increase the possibility of taking travel stains. But before we set off, everyone gets to do a common lore roll, because whoever rolls the highest, that becomes a pool of skill points that they can use to help them on the journey. Again, this represents talking to locals. Watik especially would know some things, legends they've heard, talking to people about the best road through the desert, all that kind of stuff, all kinds of preparation that they do. Vale's common lore is only 50, so she's gonna fail. Thrag's common lore is only 40, so he fails. So this is gonna be up to Watik. We're gonna say that Watik's common lore is 70. 61, that's great, so 6 degrees of success. So the pooled SLs that they can draw upon are 6, which is really, really useful, and I'm very, very glad that they have Watik with them. So they make their way across the desert. Now, it is not so much how many miles per day you go, although that is important because they're in a hurry. It is events per leg. So there was a procedure here. As they make their way, they begin to follow. They're hugging the northern shores of the Jeweled River as much as they can, following it ever westward towards the large looming shadow of the desert mountains ahead of them. Watik has a track skill. Track means navigation, all that kind of stuff. This is what you use when you're the guide. He's really good. We're gonna say he has 80. He's gonna make his roll, and this roll will determine how many hexes they get before an event befalls them. That is 5. That's very good. So what that means is, because they're going 4 hexes a day, in the morning the next day, so their second day out, is where they encounter something. But before we get there, we need to see how the quartermaster's doing. So journeys are tiring, so keeping the party properly watered and fed is the quartermaster's domain, essentially. So the skill that they use is survival. I think Thrag's really good at that. Yeah, so Thrag's gonna be the quartermaster, which means that Vale's gonna be the scout because she's gonna use her perception. So Thrag is a quartermaster, so now we're gonna make his roll to see how he does with the managing of the supplies and such. Survival 66. Oh, he just failed. He literally failed by 1%. See? When people say, percentile systems, what's the difference between 66 and 67? Well, in this case, that's the difference. One was success and one is failure. Oh, brutal. He is going to spend, because this is going to be really tiring otherwise. He's going to spend 3 resolve to re-roll that. Oh, come on, Thrag, come on. Okay, that's much better. So he got 53 on his roll, which means that he's gonna get a +5 to the travel stain table. However, they're going through difficult terrain, which is -1, so they're down to +4. The party has forced marched, which is -3 to this roll, so they're gonna roll on +1. This is a D10 +1 on the travel stain roll. 6 + 1 is 7, which is tiring. Everyone takes 1 travel stain. But they do have gear, and they can choose to roll a gear die to mitigate the stains if they can justify it. So let's see, I think Vale's gonna try and do it. So she mitigates the stain, and what about Thrag? Thrag does it as well, and they lose no gear dice. So they took one travel stain, but through creative and innovative use of gear, they were able to not take that travel stain. So I think that what that means is it was a fairly easy journey along the river. It wasn't too hot, amazingly enough, and at various points they were able to stop and fish, and Thrag was able to fashion a few things out of his gear, out of his kit, to ensure a good fishing line and stuff, and they were able to restock their provisions from the river, so that was able to sort of help mitigate that travel stain, which is very good. But we're not over yet, because we have an encounter, or rather an event, and this is going to be the domain of the scout. This is Vale. She is going to do a perception roll, and her perception is now 60. Oh, she fails her perception roll. So they're not in any particularly dangerous zone. So this is just a straight up roll on the D10. This could be an opportunity or a danger. It's completely in the hands of fate, just the way I like it. Ooh, that's no good. Okay, well actually it is good, because what I rolled was a possible danger, something called an infection event. If any of them had open wounds, even if they were treated, they would have to deal with those wounds becoming infected by something along the road, and they'd have to try and mitigate that. But because they were able to be healed both by Vale's medical attentions and by the general's medical staff, they have no wounds. So I think, yeah, perhaps as they were wading into the river to catch some of that fish, I think that there was some, unbeknownst to them, there was some rather nasty bugs and algae bacteria floating around that area that if they had open wounds, it might have caused those wounds to become infected. But alas, it did not, so they got lucky with that. That was the morning of the second day, basically. So they set out again, trying to go as far and as fast as possible. Watika's gonna make his roll 43, not bad. So that's 4 successes. 4 hexes in a day, that was the morning. So this is the mid-morning, sort of going into noon of the third day. They encounter something. But first, they're still following the river. So Thrag was looking at his plus 10 to this. Oh, great success, 60. Okay, so that's very excellent. But they were still pushing, and they're still going through difficult terrain. -1 is 5, -3 is +2 on this roll. See what the travel stains are. 5 + 2 is 7. So that's not bad. It's still a tiring trek along the northern banks of the river over the next day and a bit. Let's see if any of the geared dice are depleted, because they're gonna try and mitigate that stain. That's good, and that's good. So they don't take the stains, which is fantastic. Once again, that gear comes in extremely useful. The judicious use of bedrolls and such to keep the sand out of things so you can get a good night's sleep, all of that various stuff. The gear is turning out to be extremely useful in this case. But now we have the event itself, and Vale is gonna roll her perception. Hopefully this time she'll succeed. She will, with 4 success levels. So this is just 1d10 + 4, because we're not gonna burn any of the pooled SLs. We could, but we wanna save those, I think. And we get, 6 + 4 is 10. Gain pieces of value information or common lore bonus SL. So I think what this means is, this is an opportunity now. An opportunity to learn some information which could make their journey even easier. So let's determine what the difficulty of this opportunity is. 59, which is gonna be challenging. And the details. Bestow adversity. Oh, I know what it is. I think that they come across a few travelers, and these travelers are holed up in sort of a reedy little islet, basically, off the shores of the river. They're clearly in fear of their lives. They're essentially trying to climb up like these palm trees and such, because there's a couple of crocodiles in the river that are sort of circling them and maybe even hunting them. But these particular people up in the tree that are scared for their lives, what I think they are is I think that they are locals who would know something about the land. So if our group can help these people in some way, then they'll be able to get some extra information, which will manifest as common lore bonus rolls. So how are they gonna do it? Well, they're not gonna fight the crocodiles, but I think that they will try and drive them off. Now, unfortunately, Vale and Thrag don't have any missile weapons, but I think it's safe to assume that Watik would. Maybe he'd have a sling or something. So he is part of this, so I think that's what he's gonna do. He is going to basically try and drive off the crocodiles. So let's start with that. We'll give him a skill of 50. Is he able to do it? He is, with 2 successes. We're accumulating successes to get something positive out of this because it's an opportunity. So Watik is successful and able to, drive off these crocodiles, basically. It's a dangerous move because they might come for them, but they don't. He's able to drive off the crocodiles. So now Vale and Thrag have to engineer a way to get these people off of the island because their boat has been unmoored and is basically lost down the current of the river, essentially. It's somewhere out to sea by this point. Vale is going to do a craft practical roll to see if she can fashion sort of like a reed kind of like raft, essentially, to get them from the island to the shore. So let's see if she's able to do that. She's not great at this, but she does have some good skill. Unfortunately, she's unable to do it. But meanwhile, Thrag, how's he gonna help with this? Well, he's no stranger to the water. Because he's been wading in it, fishing, apparently. I think he's going to go into the water, brave the water, kind of swim himself over there, and one by one try and ferry these people over to the shore. There's only there's 2 of them, we'll say. So is he gonna be able to do it? He's gonna roll endurance on this, rolling on 53. Oh no, complete fail, unfortunately. So he tries to get the water, but very quickly the water is far too deep for him and he's trying to sort of swim his way back to the shore. So they are unable to totally help these people and capitalize on this opportunity, but they did help them a little bit. They drove off the crocodiles. So they're not gonna be able to gain the advantages of this opportunity here, but that is okay because they're going to continue on. They're very close now, coming towards the oasis. And in fact, as I said, this is like the 3rd day out now. They can see ahead of them, not many miles away, maybe 40, 50 miles. The river itself is becoming narrower and shallower as the land slowly begins to slope up. It's far less just sand now. Now it's more like barren rock and scrub and things like this as the land slowly rises up towards the mountain range they can see in front of them. And that is ultimately their destination. They're going to hit essentially this oasis part. And I think even from now, from here, they can see in the distance this waterfall. It's not a huge waterfall, but they can see it cascading down into this pool that is essentially the headwaters of the Jeweled River. So that is what they're angling for. Only then will they turn north and continue their journey. So that's what they're trying to get to, and that means that this was in the mid portion of the 3rd day. They continue on, and on the 3rd leg, Watik is rolling on his track. Great, 5. He gets 5 hexes, which is going to put them past the oasis before an event happens. While they do definitely stop at the oasis and, replenish their stores and such as best they can, fill up their water canteens, they don't actually have an event until they have turned to the north and gone a few more miles. They're over halfway now. All right, Thrag, we are no longer following the river, so he does not get the bonus to his survival roll for this. He fails, unfortunately. Ooh, okay, that's bad news. This could be, we're still in difficult terrain, and we were pushing. Ooh, this is gonna be -3. This could be really bad. Do we wanna use any of our bonus SLs? I think we do. I'm gonna use 3 of those bonus SLs to knock out that penalty. So we're down to 3, but this is just a straight up roll now. 2! Wearying. Everyone takes 2 travel stains. Well, they can mitigate 1 with gear, no problem. Let's do that and see if their gear goes down. No. So they can mitigate 1, which means that they're all gonna take 1 travel stain. Travel stains are marked as an X on the character and eat into your maximum resolve. This becomes far more tiring as they're making really, really good time because they're pushing the camels as fast as they can possibly go through this rocky, sloping lowlands of the mountains that are rising up towards their left towards the west now. Does Vale make her perception as the scout when they encounter this event? Afternoon of day 4. Does she make her roll? She does not again make her roll. Okay, this is bad. They are not in a yellow zone, not a danger zone, because they're skirting the land very carefully. That's the choice of route is extremely important. Again, we do have these 3 bonus SLs we could roll on this, but I don't want to. I want to save them. Here we go. What do we roll? 1! combat ambush encounter really bad. They have moved up along the slopes of the mountains. They're pushing the camels hard. They're starting to take some fatigue now from the road, some travel stains, and unfortunately, Vale, in her state of weariness, does not see the combat encounter that is about to play out in front of them. They are going to be ambushed by something, and I don't know what that thing is. We're gonna have to roll for it, but we're gonna have to roll next time on the next episode of Me, Myself, and I. Thank you so much for joining me, and please do consider hitting liking and subscribing and supporting the game and us on Patreon and all the good stuff. The details of all of that is in the description below, and I will see you next time for the ambush on the camel train in the mountains on the next episode of Me, Myself, and I.